Hey guys, welcome to Watch with Poppy. Today we're going to be talking about last night's episode of Scandal. It was a doozy, you guys, so let's get right to it. It definitely felt like this episode was a statement episode. This one was right out of the headlines, right? I mean, I got that as soon as I saw the preview. I was just like, oh my goodness, that's going to be pretty deep. And it definitely was. Most of the episode dealt with this case. You've got this young black kid who gets shot and killed. He was shot by a white police officer. And then his dad shows up with a shotgun, basically sits a lawn chair like right in front of his kid and is like, I am not leaving until the man who killed my son comes out here. Olivia gets called in by the police department to kind of help them deal with the optics of the situation before it kind of gets like way out of hand. But yeah, so most of the episode dealt with Olivia dealing with this situation. And there was a little bit of stuff going on at the White House with Mellie and the VP. So Fitz needs to choose a new VP. And Mellie is determined that he choose somebody that is not going to be electable when he leaves so that she can be president. Could you imagine Mellie as president, you guys? Let's wait and see if that happens. There's this whole bit where Mellie gets jealous because Cyrus wants Fitz to really pick this Governor Mendez. And Mellie, of course, wants him to pick somebody just like completely vanilla. We got to see Senator Susan Ross again. Do you guys remember that episode where Olivia helps her get elected? I love this woman because I just feel like she's so honest, right? Mellie kind of runs into her at the beginning of the episode and then ends up remembering her and brings her to Fitz as her pick for VP. This woman is just so honest, right? There's this point where she's talking to Fitz and he's trying to tell her like, I want you to be my vice president. And she's just like, but that means I could be president, like if something happens to you. And she's like, and I don't want your job. Like you have the worst job in the world. And I just love it, right? She's so honest and like, almost just so innocent, really. The thing I think is so funny, you guys, is wouldn't it be hilarious if Fitz chooses her thinking that he's helping Mellie, but then in the end, this woman turns out to be like a powerhouse. I just think that would be hilarious. So yeah, you guys, that part of the episode was hilarious. Most of the episode, like I said, centered on this street where you've got this dad sitting with his dead son trying to figure out what happened. Meanwhile, Olivia's trying to kind of handle the situation. Obviously, she should really be at home, like sitting down somewhere because she just dealt with a traumatic situation, but she's here helping. There were a couple of moments that I thought were so poignant about this whole story. There's this character that shows up that's this like local neighborhood activist, and I think his name was Marcus, and he really, you know, tries to like step to Olivia and tries to like, I don't know, like really make some assumptions about her. For him, it was almost like because she was successful and she didn't live in the neighborhood, then she didn't really have a voice to him. Like nothing she said could be valid because she was tainted, you know? Like she was there working for the man as far as he was concerned. There was this point even where he said to her something like, your black card's not getting validated tonight or something like that. And it just rubbed me the wrong way, you guys. And maybe that's because I have been in situations with people where I get the you're not black enough, this and that, la la la. And it just reminded me of that basically. Like that's the conversation he was really having with her. That's what he was really saying to her when he was saying that. And don't get me wrong, I actually really liked his character because I think obviously he represented, you know, the protesters in Ferguson, and he represented the anger and the like, maybe we need to, you know, have some unrest. Maybe that's gonna get our point across. And I definitely saw things from both of their sides. So I think all of the scenes that the two of them were in together were really interesting. And I think they actually really, in the end, ended up learning from each other, which I thought was pretty cool. In the end, we realized that the police officer that shot this kid, you know, he said, you know, the kid pulled a knife, that's why I shot him. They actually find a knife underneath the body, but after OPA does a little legwork, it turns out that this officer is lying. Turns out that he shot this kid who was reaching in his pocket for not a knife, but for a piece of paper. And then he planted a knife on the body to kind of protect himself. It was interesting to me that they seemed to kind of tie this whole story up for us. You know, they gave us an ending. So it's like, here's this kid that gets shot. We're going to figure out what happened, and the bad guy's going to go to jail. And it was almost like they were trying to give us a little bit of what we don't get in real life, you know, because obviously we've seen so many different cases where nobody goes to jail and there's a dead kid and there are parents who are going home without their child. And I get that it's TV and TV loves to do that. TV loves to wrap it up for us in an hour, right? And we kind of expect that a little bit as viewers. There was a part of me that almost wished that she hadn't done that though, because I think doing the opposite would have just made it seem more real. There's this great documentary called The Central Park Five about 5 young black boys who were convicted of rape, and coerced into giving these confessions when they actually were innocent. I think when I watched that documentary for the first time, it made me realize, you know, life is not always fair. You know, real life is not like an episode of Law and Order. Real life does not get wrapped up in 1 hour. There's not that expert witness that shows up at the last minute that testifies and gets you off scot-free. A lot of times that doesn't happen, and a lot of time there are innocent people that end up going to jail. And these 5 boys in this documentary were a prime example of that. So yeah, there's a part of me that almost wishes that she would have given us a little bit of that. If you have not seen the Central Park 5 documentary, you definitely should check that out. I will say she doesn't leave it in a place that's all kind of like puppy dogs and rainbows. I mean, the very end of the episode, you have this shot of Olivia like laying in her bed. She's still awake. And then that shot quickly fades to a shot of the dead boy's body still laying in the street. And we get that the coroner is there and they're finally getting ready to take him away. In fact, that's the last shot we see is them zipping up this body bag. And so even though we did get a resolution, we're still kind of left with this unresolved feeling. You know, it's like, hey, the crime has been solved. We know who did it. The bad guy's in jail. But guess what? Even with that resolution, we're still not at peace with what's happened because there's still a boy who's dead. So even though she did tie it up, she really did kind of leave us with that kind of truth, which I really loved. Another great scene, right? This actor that played this police officer was on fire. He just gives this big old speech to Olivia after he tells her like, you people, this and that and this, where he just basically is like, that kid died because he did not respect me. And he just went into this whole like irate, ridiculous spiel. And you could see everyone in the room just looking at him like, can't even believe it. It was like somebody was saying the things that you know people think, but they would never say out loud. Like he said them and he shouted them to the world, and it was intense and just cray really, people. Really crazy. The highlight of this episode, I mean, if I had Emmys in my apartment, I would be throwing them at him. Courtney B. Vance, you guys, who played this young boy's father. There was just some fantastic moments from him. You get that this whole time that he's sitting there with his son waiting with this shotgun, he thinks that he's gonna get shot. Like he thinks, I'm probably not gonna leave this place alive, but you people are gonna tell me what happened to my son. And so he's really kind of holding it together, right? And by the end of the episode, once everything gets resolved, there's this moment where Olivia puts him in a car and takes him to the White House. Like he doesn't even realize where he's going. And the next thing you know, he's like, wait a minute, we're not in my neighborhood. And there's the White House. And then you see him walking into the Oval Office. And you get that he doesn't have to be strong anymore at that point. Like, right? Like he completely and totally just breaks down. He just starts to weep, right? I mean, and I was crying like every time I watch that scene. I want to cry now just thinking about it. I thought there was something really poignant as well about the fact that, you know, Fitz grabs him and the two of them just embrace there in the Oval Office, and this man is crying, and you get that both of them have lost their sons, really. Both in different ways, but I think it was such an interesting little scene because it brings this idea of commonality that yes, we're different, but you know what? We have similar experiences, and there are things that we experience that are the same. And I thought that was really very interesting and done in a really subtle way. Probably my favorite scene in the entire episode. I think it was definitely a polarizing episode. To me, I loved it. I know there were a lot of people that didn't like it or that had issues with it. But I think, you know what? It's not going to be everything to everyone. I get that. I get that it's a TV version of, you know, trying to make a point about real life. I enjoyed it. I mean, it was definitely intense and really different from any other Scandal episode I feel like that I've ever seen. So I would love to hear what you guys thought about it. What were your favorite bits? If you didn't like it, I would love to hear why you didn't like it. Yeah, make sure to tell me about that down in the comment section below, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye.